I'm a male, biologically speaking, but in the name of absurdity, I identified as a girl near the beginning of this sentence and then a boy near the end of this sentence. Why? Because I feel like it. It's called gender fluidity. Who are you to tell me I wasn't a girl in the beginning of that sentence? Did you use scientific knowledge? Empiricism? That's hogwash. If a man is biologically male, but he genuinely feels like a female, I'm not going to pretend like it's perfectly okay to feel one way and actually be another. If a short person thought they were tall, they're wrong. If a colorblind person thought they can see color, they're also wrong. So when a male feels like they're a female, and it's pretty clear by all empirical evidence they're male, then they're wrong. Sorry, it's just a fact. You know, we can talk about intersex people. Yes, there are a small number of people who, on the surface, blur the line between male and female. However, the vast majority of people, it's clear that they're either male or female. And if their brain is giving them the idea that there's something that they're not, then they have a disorder. And when I say disorder, I mean something that doesn't follow normal psychological phenomena. For example, the human eye is supposed to see color. If it doesn't see color, then the person has a disorder. The disorder isn't the fact that they feel uncomfortable or that they can't function well with society. The disorder is that their eye is doing something that doesn't follow normal psychological phenomena. In the case of gender, if someone's brain is wired in the same way a female's brain is wired, and there are differences between a female brain and a male's brain, but they're biologically male, then there's a real disconnect between how the person's brain operates and sees the world versus his genetics. The problem is that his brain is doing something that isn't biologically in tune with the rest of his body, like it's supposed to. It's not just not the norm for someone to genuinely think they're a different gender than they are. It's a disorder. There's a disconnect between what you are and what you think you are. Granted, you could be one of those people who do this to fit in because it's trendy. That may or may not be a disorder. We'll see. But for those people who feel uncomfortable, genuinely uncomfortable in their own bodies, body doesn't match up with their brain, it certainly is a disorder. Gender identity disorder has been considered a disorder all the way up until the 1970s, when a lot of people began questioning its validity. It's still in contention whether or not the disorder is real in the psychological community, probably because they don't want to hurt people's feelings or risk marginalizing certain groups of people in society. They want to be politically correct, basically. But that's no way to be a psychologist. The current American Psychiatric Association's definition of disorder doesn't follow a consistent standard. They say a disorder is when something is bothering you functionally speaking, and when you can't function in normal society. Not that your own body is doing something that doesn't follow normal psychological phenomena or isn't evolutionarily sound. So to them, a colorblind person has a disorder not because they can't see color, and that's what a human eye is supposed to do, but because they're inhibited from doing certain things in their life and fully functioning with the rest of society. They say being transgender is perfectly acceptable, but they wouldn't apply this train of logic to other groups of people and accept them like other kin people, people who think they're animals trapped inside human bodies, or trans-disabled people, people who think certain body parts like legs or arms aren't there, so they cut it off. They do this because one is the social norm that's becoming more popular, transgenderism, and others are not. This is how they can justify cutting off a person's penis because they feel like a woman, but not cut off a person's arm because they feel like their arm is a different gender, even though the exact same logic follows. They label those group of people as disordered but not transgenders. In the wake of this, people have exploited the very concept of gender to the point where gender itself can mean anything you want it to mean. I've come across 63 genders myself. I can make up a gender right now, genderless nondium. If you think gender is what you identify as and it has no relation to what you genetically are, how could you object to me doing this if I genuinely believed in this? It's not that you are what you say you are, it's what you empirically are. But Jay, a person would object, gender and sex are two different things. And my response to that is, it isn't. Gender is not something we cannot deduce or quantify. There's a reason why the majority of people don't identify as one of the over 60 genders that exist out there, from two-spirited to genderqueer. There's a reason why people who are trans feel uncomfortable in their own bodies. It's because they're either external sources, society or culture, or internal sources, gender identity disorder, that convinces them they are not the gender that they're born with. Which leads me to the last, perhaps most central point of this video, how we're deluding ourselves. I've had someone tell me before that gender-specific words used to refer to people who were doing things that were known as male or female things to do. It was only in the 20th century when they attached those words to the state of being. Truthfully, most people wouldn't have a problem calling someone a girl if they actually didn't think that they were a girl and that was their state of being. But no, there is more to it. This culture, the transgender culture, is taking an extra step by actually thinking they are something that they're not. It's one thing to call someone a woman who is not a woman, but it's a whole other business when you actually start to think that that person you're calling a woman is a woman in a state of being. This is why we avoid calling people what they're not, because you're risking confusing them. We don't want people who are not girls to think that they're girls just because we call them that. And for those people who genuinely feel like they're women but are not, then there are many external or internal forces behind their decisions to call themselves by their made-up genders or to call themselves by the incorrect sex. But Jay, the same person, would object again. Why can't we just let people do what they want and live their own lives? Why does it even matter? It matters because we're creating a culture where people are not in touch with reality and the truth in general. There are people who think their arms and legs are not there, so they remove it. And there are people who think they're animals trapped inside a human body. There are an uncountable amount of genders and pronouns that we've created to be politically correct. There are people who are white, who are so ashamed of being white, they rationalize the lie that they're black. It's not good to live in a society where you have millions of people who think that this is okay. I'm male, I'm black, I have black hair, I'm average height. It's not a matter of debate or questioning who I am, it's a fact. It doesn't matter, what other people feel, it's just reality. It matters immensely that people understand who they really are, not what they're fooled into thinking they are. In short, for everything factual about humans, like race, age, height, species, and so on, if someone was convinced that they were not what they biologically or empirically are, we would consider that a problem, and we would not go along with it. We do not tell black people they are white or short people that they are tall or humans that they are animals just because they feel that way. Therefore, the same should go for sex and gender. I'm Jay Feza for Rebel.media. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe to the Rebel.media.